Hey guys, what's going on? It's Lanice Jones, your health and wellness coach.
And Stephanie Demas, your mental health advocate.
Boom, baby. And this evening, on this episode, we will be talking about mental health and sex. This is part one, baby. It's going to be really. Now, mental health and sex, part one, we are talking about mental health and sex, emotional wellness when it comes to sex and mental health. We will specify as we go down the line, but emotional wellness when it comes to sex, emotional wellness, and mental health. So, number one, what I want to say is get into this conversation. All right, flow with me, because I'm not sure if somebody tried to put your handcuffs or what, but you were like, you know. So just let it breathe a little. Let it breathe a little. Huh? Yeah, just breathe. Um, there you go, Pumpty. Um, Now, are we talking about people specifically with mental health disorders? Or are we talking about how mental health goes along with these components of sex?
Both.
No,
Yeah.
one or the other.
You can choose.
I mean, yes, you can choose, but I wouldn't want to do that. I want to make things a little bit more clear. So, are we talking about in general, or are we talking about somebody that has OCD, schizophrenia?
Let's talk about that.
What's the bipolar? My dad mentioned that today. So we're like, okay, so let's talk about people that have mental health issues. People with mental health issues. Mental health issues and sex. All right. What I would say to help from experience, from what I've dealt with, what I've seen others deal with, when it comes to emotional wellness, when you're dealing with mental issues, it could be anything. You could have PTSD. You can be dealing with a whole lot. You could have a developmental disorder. You can have a lot of things can go. You can have a chemical imbalance going on. Especially if you take medication, or you would like to be intimate or have sex with your partner. You may be tired. Uh, you may be hyper or overstimulated, whatever they try to say. You may want more, you may want less. What I would say is, for those out there who do have psychological, disorders, neurology, all of those, dealing with your mind, mental health disorders, okay? I just ran a list down. Anything close to that. Even if you have like autism, things where you see the world different, the world sees you different, so on and so forth. When it comes to having sex, you and your partner have to be aware of what's going on. Facts, okay? You both need to be open and honest about how you feel before you are getting ready to have sex. Is the person you're getting ready to have sex with scared? Are they not sure what you're dealing with? Have they watched a movie and they think that now you're paranoid and this and that is going to happen to them? I'm going to take all my clothes off, you're going to bite my nipple off. And like, what they think that the person's getting ready to do. So you have to have an open and honest conversation about what to expect in the bedroom. You have people that have disorders where they get their groove on, they might have an orgasm and pass out. Are you going to pass out on top of me? Are you going to pass out under me? Are you going to roll off the bed and hit your head on the side of the... Who knows? Okay? So these are the things you have to talk about. You have to know and get as much understanding as you can of what each other is dealing with. What the person with the mental disorder is dealing with, what the person without the mental disorder is dealing with, the one that's diagnosed and the one that's not diagnosed, the one that think they have a mental disorder. What happens when I take my clothes off? What happens when I'm getting ready to be intimate? Do they get fearful? Do they shake a lot? Do they begin to start laughing a lot? And here you are, butt naked. You like, what is so funny? They are cracking up. Here you are like, oh my God, they think I'm ugly. And really, That's their reaction. Maybe they hot. They think you cute and oh my God, ha 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 ha, and you're like, oh my God, why? you know, had these conversations about what to expect. This is what happened with my last partner. You know, it embarrassed me, or it embarrassed him, or I didn't read social cues. I didn't read the body language correctly. I was not sure what to do next. I've never done so and so before. You gotta walk me through it. You know, honesty is the best thing that I always talk about, is because that's what we get crossed up in. Because a lot of people don't want to be embarrassed. A lot of people don't want to, quote unquote, tell on themselves. And sex is a form of healing, period. Sex, in a lot of ways, can be so many things if you allow it to be. You know, that's where I want to start off at. Tell the truth. Be honest. Be forthcoming. You don't have to you don't have to write a book. But let the person know what they're getting into. Whether you are the person with the mental disorder or without. Let them know what to expect. You know, and unfortunately, a lot of us, I hate to go here, but a lot of us have sex with human beings we should not be intimate with. They don't really care about us. They're just trying to get things going. And now we feel bad because we done messed around and pop locked all over the spot, butt naked. And they're like, why in the world? And I'm not trying to be funny. I'm very serious. And they're looking at you like, why are you doing this? You're crazy. And it's like, I told you I had this and that going on. I told you this was how I got down. You know what I'm saying? Now what's weird? Did you think I was playing? I was serious. You know, so long story short, that embarrassment, that hurt of somebody misunderstanding you and judging you falsely. Because no, you're not crazy. No, it's not this. It's not that. You know what I'm saying? But they don't know that. And you got people who are overreacting or reacting unjustly. It could be you. It could be them. But not communicating that comprehension, that conversation is very, very important when it comes to emotional health. Because you can be very emotional when you're done, before, during, whether you are the one that's been diagnosed or not. But you have to let the other person know what you're expecting and what you're getting ready to get into. I would start there. You know, have that connection. Have that emotional connection. Have that respect built there. Tell as much truth as you can. And people, if you are dealing with mental illness and some things go down while you're getting your freak on, and they are not, quote unquote, the norm, have those conversations that every now and again, my sex life ain't as normal as everybody else's sex life. Things may go, and have that open conversation so that nobody's confused. Because everybody think it's okay when they think they're getting ready to have a good time out of it. That's where I would start. Where would you start?
Yeah, I would start there too.
What else do you think about emotional wellness and mental health?
Well, sex is a mood enhancer. So people who suffer from mood disorders are obviously going to benefit from sex if it's with the right person, because, you know, people with bipolar can be quite impulsive and go off and sleep around and do things that are harmful to themselves emotionally speaking. I would say that, you know, also there are some other factors that come into play. For instance, like if you have borderline personality, we'll go there too. It differs from bipolar because bipolar is more of a chemical imbalance, where borderline, your mood is more reliant on the situation. So that being said, there are instances with people who do have borderline where their spouse or their partner, you know, their sexual person that, you know, they're, you know, intimate with, may become their favorite person, is what people say. So in other words, there's a lot of pressure that's going to be put on that person that maybe otherwise wouldn't be put on another individual outside of that relationship. And that can feel very, probably threatening and unfair at times to someone who doesn't have a mental disorder, to like just be thrown into the situation where you don't understand why all this jealousy is coming up, all this extra is being put on you. And you know, there are a lot of studies too about medication that people are put on and how it tends to decline one's sex drive. There's that too. So, you know, if you're involved with someone who is taking serotonin, you know, inhibitors, they may go up and down with when they're, you know, sexually stimulated and when they're not, as opposed to someone who's normal, that is more of like a obvious sign to another person. You know, it's maybe harder to read someone with mental illness than it is someone else, I would say. So be aware of that. And yeah, just, you know, keeping emotions in check is so important, because a lot of times, I think we all know this, when you're dating someone or you're in a relationship with someone or you're married to someone, there's expectations there. So it's not only that you have a standard of the person that you want to be with, there's an expectation of what that entails. And like, if you are unaware of what you expect of a person, that might come across as anger. Like, let's just say you don't know what to expect at all, and you were diagnosed and you're on medication. That might come across as frustration because you are just being reckless with your emotions because you don't have any idea of where this is going to take you in the future. Like, it's often a misconception that people with a mental illness are unaware of themselves and others. Like, quite often people are like super aware to a fault, and in that case you would want to be on the same level. Like, your safety and your security and your emotional well-being is constantly being checked when you're not in a stable environment, if that makes sense. So when you're with someone else, it's almost as though you are reliant on that person to be that, and it's another like double standard, I would say. It's another way of projection. So what I'm getting at is, like, just because people are not sure where to put you sometimes doesn't mean you have to be emotionally irresponsible. It just means that you have to always keep in check where your response comes from. And in the bedroom, that could look many different ways. You know, you could withdraw, you could check out, you could be over sexual, you could do all these different things to compensate for the fact that you don't feel safe. But the truth is, if you're diagnosed, chances are you have abandonment issues at the root of it. And so once you find a person that you no longer have to fear about, that can be scary anyway. So it kind of defeats the purpose. But once you acknowledge that, then, you know, you can allow yourself to feel your real emotions instead of just going off of anger all the time. That's what I would say. You know, there's that protective nature that we all have. and that's normal. But for some reason, people who struggle with mental illness, it's more amplified. You know, it's more of a necessity to protect than it is, you know, just a privilege, if that makes sense. So emotions take a lot of heat when you are sexually active and you have a mental illness. There's that.
Okay. All right. Well, I had a good time. We will be back to talk about part 2. We love you. Have a good night.